Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Susan Lynn. I'm a psychic and a medium. Thanks so much for joining me today. I have a really special guest today. You guys have seen her before, Dr. Vicky. She was a chiropractor for a long time, a very well-known and successful chiropractor, but now she's an even more well-known and successful. I don't even know what to call her except for that she is magic. This is magic in a bottle you're looking at on the screen. I've had a reading with her. I'm about to tell you what happened. She reads the Kabbalah, she reads astrology, she reads the tarot, and she reads numerology. So she is a Swiss Army knife of metaphysical modalities. So when you get a reading with her, she comes prepared with like Edward Scissorhands. You know what I mean? Like, oh, here's your numerology, here's your Kabbalah, and you're just like, oh my God, my whole life makes sense. So anyway, you can find her at seedsoftransformation.com. I'll put her information in the description. But guess what? Today, I'm even more excited because I get to talk to her about politics, which is so important right now. And she's going to tell us about the Supreme Court. And she's going to tell us about how they're going through their Saturn return. And frankly, I'm going through my Saturn return. And I hope that they're going through a Saturn return like mine, because nobody deserves it more than them. But anyway, and then we're going to talk about the United States of America. We're going to talk about some important things. So stay tuned. Get all comfy on your couch with your drink and everything. Turn up the do not disturb sign, because you're not going to want to be disturbed, okay? All right, Vicky, take it away. How are you today?
I'm wonderful, and thank you so much for having me again. It's been a whirlwind since I've been on your channel. I know I'm not the first person to say that to you. And your folks are just amazing, and I've met so many really cool, interesting, and tapped in folk. So, you attract what you put out, and you put out some amazing stuff, and you have some amazing followers. So thank you for the opportunity again.
Thank you for coming on, because this is exactly, I attract you because I'm like, I'm always trying to problem solve. I'm like, how do I fix this problem? I got to find somebody. Dr. Vicky, so you're going to help us today understand a little bit about what the Supreme Court is going through, because I think we could all say it's going through some things. It's just going through some things right now. We got Roberts, we got Alito, whose energy is really bombastic to me. We have Thomas, whose energy, Thomas was the poster boy of the bad boy. And now Alito is like, sit down, sir, hold my beer, watch this. And I think Roberts is like, he's clutching his pearls. Like, what is happening? And I think Amy Coney Barrett is like, what's wrong with you men? Sit down, start acting straight, right? And we
Yes.
already know that the three liberal justices are in their offices crying because they told us. So please tell us what is happening with the Supreme Court energetically, so that we can understand it and get through this period of time. And thank you in advance.
Okay. So the Supreme Court was instituted by now let me just say this. I'm not a historian, so I'm going to say
I was going to say madman. I don't know. That's
I
the
was
first
going
one
to
that came
say
to
I'm
my
going to
mind.
say all things wrong, but I do have a slide. So I'm going to pull the slide up and read it because I got it from Wikipedia, so that then we know I guess we know it's okay. So let me do that for a moment
So
here.
it wasn't a madman. Wikipedia did not say madman created a Supreme Court.
No, no, no,
Obviously,
they
it
did
needs
not.
some changes. Whatever it was created as, now that we're in 2024, I think it needs some updating. It's kind of like, would you want curtains in your house from whenever the Supreme Court was created? No, you want to update them. And I don't know what it is about me and the curtains in this room. I just really need to change them. I mean, they're not that old, y'all. Come on.
The Supreme Court was established by Article 3 of the U.S. Constitution, and the Constitution granted the Supreme Court ultimate justification over all laws. The Judiciary Act of 1789 is what established the Supreme Court. So we're going to make that be the birthday of the Supreme Court.
Okay.
And this is a chart right here. And I just want to point out a couple of interesting things about it. They do have their sun in Libra, which is the sign of justice. So that's good. Um, they have their moon in Sagittarius. So there is a certain amount of belief. Is Sagittarius. Sagittarius at its best is inclusive, but at its when you're dealing with its shadow, it can be very fundamentalist, that originalist bull stuff. And these people who want all this original stuff is like, yeah, it was 1789, right? And the fact that the justices can, they can be justices until they're dead. But in 1789, if you made it to 65, you were lucky, So but now these guys, they can make it till they're 100, right? I think Thurgood Marshall was around 100, I think, when he although he seems a little more with it than some of the guys that are there now. That's just my own opinion. What's happening now is that the Supreme Court, there's a couple of interesting things. When you use the Kabbalah, you can put the astrology in it. You can put the numerology. Now, how do you get the numerology? We have to get the official name. And the official name of the Supreme Court is Supreme Court of the United States. So when you look at that whole thing, you can get vibrations from the name. The soul vibration of the Supreme Court is actually a 5611 vibration, which is this card in the tarot. I don't know.
What is that? The Two of Swords.
The Two of Swords, right?
Where the woman has two swords across her chest and she's blindfolded.
That's right. Because justice is supposed to be blind. Okay.
And balance.
And balance, right. And using, whenever you see blindfolds in the tarot, you're not supposed to use your human eyes. You're supposed to use your third eye. Oh, and this vibration is located on the Tree of Life, right up here in Hokmah, which I know you're familiar with because almost every number in your chart sits there. It's connected to the planet Uranus, our ability to see, the awakener, the great awakener, right? So that's where the soul and it's an 11, which is a justice vibration, right? A balance vibration. It's a master number, master spiritual messenger, the soul. Then we have the outer, how it's expressed. And it's actually down here. It's located down here on the Tree of Life. This place on the Tree of Life is planet Earth. It's the manifested world. So your quiescent is how you impress yourself upon the world. And it's this vibration. And I know, I'm sorry, you can't really see these very well, but it's the page of Pentacles. Pages they're learning, like it's a Virgo vibration. This is actually a Virgo vibration. So it's always perfecting itself. So there's this sense at a soul level, the Supreme Court is supposed to be balanced and, using their intuition, not their physical eyes, as it were. And then they impress themselves through changing, making adjustments, very Virgo stuff, perfecting, right? The perfect union, all that stuff. All right. And then their expression vibration, which is the balance of those two things, is the Tower. What? Now, what's interesting about this, and it's right here located on the Tree of Life, this was the soul vibration of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, 1607. And so that's why I think she was so revered and sort of seen as the Supreme Court in a certain way, right? So that's significant. Now, Trump's soul vibration is also a 1607. So he has connection to this as well. And he certainly has changed the Supreme Court through his actions, right? Wow. But the path of the Supreme Court is the 58-4 vibration, which is the four of swords. And there's an isolation about this. You're sort of isolated in this place. And it's also, incidentally, the shadow of the Supreme Court. So the path and the shadow of the Supreme Court are the same vibration. And both those vibrations are located in the Tree of Life in a place called Hesed, which is connected to Jupiter. Jupiter is judicial. Jupiter rules judicial. So it's so strange, when I look at these charts and I think to myself, did they know this stuff, or did it just all sort of precipitate at the exact right time, right? Now, here is Jupiter in the chart of the Supreme Court, and they actually have Jupiter square the nodes in their chart. When you have a planet square the nodes, there's usually difficulty letting go of the past and moving into the future. When Jupiter squared the nodes in a chart, it's like, what is true? That's the question you're asking yourself. What is true? And so they are, going through this process themselves. But astrologically, if you notice, their Saturn is at 18 degrees of Pisces. Well, Saturn is at 18 degrees of Pisces right now. In fact, they're in the middle of their Saturn return. Now, Saturn returns happen every like 29 years. And I believe this is their 8th Saturn return. I'm not positive, but since they've inception, they've had 8 Saturn returns. 8 is the number of karma. As you sow, so shall you reap. Okay. So there is a sense of them coming to and we're in an 8 year. And 2024 is an 8 year, right? So that resonates. So when you have a Saturn return as a person, it's different because people can only live, through maybe they'll have 3 Saturn returns because you have your third one when you're 87. But organizations and countries, they can have many of these Saturn returns, right? But Saturn return always says what's working and what's not working. Now the last 30 years, because we can go 30 years, right? The last 30 years, what has happened? What have they done, and is it still working? Well, I believe about 30 years ago, wasn't that when Thomas got in? He got in around, was that about 30 years ago, right? I think. See, I should
Wow.
know this, but I'm just
Wow,
talking
it
off
could
the top of
be.
my- Could be, right? Okay, so now they're coming to a point where they're like, well, is it still working? Well, I would say no. So what's interesting is that they're also, if you notice, their sun is at 2 degrees 1 minute of Libra. Libra is an air sign. And Pluto is in Aquarius. And so what's happening right now is Pluto is making a trine to their sun. The sun is the identity, it's who they are. Okay. Pluto is a planet of transformation. Now, there are different ways you can transform through Pluto. A trine is considered a flowing aspect. So there's this flow of energy, and Pluto in Aquarius is the power of the people. And there's a flow of energy from the power of the people energy to the identity of the Supreme Court. Now, because Pluto moves so slowly, we actually this process is a 2 year process. It started on the April 14th was the first time it was exact. Now with Pluto, because it moves very slow, it's a process. It's not certain planets when they have an exact hit, it's like boom. But Pluto, not so much. It's a process, but it comes to a head. So I'll give you the dates on this because it's very interesting. 4/14, which was April 14th of this year, was the first exact trine. May 21st was the second. Now, Pluto's moving back into Capricorn for a couple of months, last degree of Capricorn. That's going to go back into Aquarius. And then in 2025, the Supreme Court is going to have 3 more exact trines. And trines don't create the kind of chaos that other aspects do, like a conjunction or an opposition or a square, which are more stressful. So there's an opportunity here, if we take it, to transform the Supreme Court into something that's more aligned with the people. And Pluto is in Aquarius. If you notice, the Supreme Court has Pluto in Aquarius. So it's going to have its Pluto return, but it's not going to have it for probably 10 or more years because the Pluto of the Supreme Court is at 18 degrees of Aquarius, and Pluto is going to be in Aquarius for 20 years. We have the opportunity. We're at a point with the Supreme Court where we're seeing what works and what doesn't work, and we're getting an eye full of that. And then we also are getting this opportunity through the trine energy of of Aquarius and Pluto in Aquarius to actually make the changes that will reflect, I honestly think, what the Supreme Court is meant to reflect, but in a more modern way, not an originalist way necessarily.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
All right. So that's what I see with the Supreme Court. So I don't know if you have questions, or I will.
I had two questions. One was going back to the 16-7 numerological energy of Trump, and so that red bar there on the Kabbalah.
Yes.
So it's interesting to me that Ruth Bader Ginsburg was a 16-7 and Trump is a 16-7. And so it seems like there's a lot of opposites here. The low energy versus the high energy of the same, of the same card, of the same numerological thing, So,
right.
But they're both doing the same thing, right? Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I mean, she could have retired and we could have potentially had a different seat, right? So she changed the Supreme Court in that way too. She also changed the Supreme Court she made it kind of famous with her I dissent and her different, she used to wear those kind of collars that she would denote whether she was going to be for or against the ruling. At the same time, here's Trump doing his business, trying to transform the Supreme Court. I thought it was interesting that you said we've got an eye full, right? Like, I think that, again, what's working and what's not working. Well, we got an eye full of what we don't want. When things are kind of humming along and not broken, even if they're slightly broken, as long as they're doing their job, you just don't pay any attention. It's, if your car's making that knock, 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 you just turn the radio up, right? You just keep on going. But when the car's dead on the side of the road, you finally have to look at it and go, I guess I should have been paying attention to that knock, knock. So I think that's kind of the energy. I just want to help people understand, because people will get understandably possibly upset that Trump has the same energy as Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Well, let me just
kind of make sense.
If I can say something about that, right? The energetically where it falls on the tree of life is associated with the solar plexus energetically in a person. It's the seat of your personal will. And when you say that Ruth, could have retired and she chose not to, that was her choice. She wanted to, I don't know, she thought she could cheat jet, she could live to 1,000, who knows, Methuselah. There was a certain amount of ego involved in that. And so it created a situation where now we're in the situation we're in now. And now we say, well, Trump has the same thing. Is that going to be bad? Well, perhaps not. I mean, isn't he asking for like total immunity? Right. So in a way, his soul is testing the Supreme Court. Now, the thing about the 16-7 vibration energetically, and then just actually when you get it in a reading, the 16-7, the vibration is the base vibration is 7. 7 is know thyself. It's about the truth. It's about the truth of a situation. And ultimately, when we have these tower moments, it brings us in alignment with our own spirit, because 7 is about spirit. And so we are humans we are a spirit having a human experience. When the tower comes along and wipes everything out, all we have is ourselves. This is a come to Jesus. This is a moment when we go, I don't know what to do. And that's when spirit comes in. When our ego falls away, like when we go, well, I don't know what to do about this situation, so I'm going to leave it to, some people would say Jesus, some people would say God. I mean, how many times do you look up and go, oh my God, I don't know what to do? And suddenly in the next moment, you either know what to do or everything changes on a dime, right? Those are those moments. And the energy is the energy. There's no moral judgment on the energy. It's the utilization of that. And everybody has an opinion about everything. So But honestly, what it is trying to, what that 16-7 is doing, and I think to a certain extent that's what Trump is doing, is it's making us, it's reminding us of our own power. But that power only comes through our connection to spirit and source. Not, yeah, you can be very powerful. You can be Elon Musk, you can be Putin, you could be whoever, but you're going to die. That power is temporal. It comes, it goes. What's true power is the power of the soul. And that's what these experiences, I think, are trying to get us to understand. The best thing, 7 is about know thyself. And so when you know thyself is the higher self. And the higher self on the tree of life sits in this little circle here, the yellow circle, which is called Tippereth, which means beauty. It's a mediating influence. Its symbol is actually the scales of justice. And it's connected to our heart chakra, which is where we connect with, that's where the Christ consciousness is in the Kabbalah. That's where the group consciousness is, the idea of group consciousness. So there's nothing to be afraid of, because we have the power to change things, but we can only change things through changing ourselves.
And so would you say that Trump is sort of on the lower end of that? He's refusing to know thyself. He's refusing to connect to that, higher brilliance. Whereas Ruth Bader, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying she should have retired. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here. In the sense that these two figures that share the same numerological energy both shook up the Supreme Court in their own unique ways. Right. And I think there's probably young girls right now who are in law school who want to be a Supreme Court justice because they watched her on the court. So I think she's left a legacy, a beautiful legacy of women being inspired and thinking, I can do this. I just think it's interesting that these two complete polar opposite people share that same numerological energy.
Right. Well, 16-7, people with 16-7 in their chart tend to make differences in the world.
I see. Okay.
The solar plexus is part of the chakra system that comes into manifestation because we incarnate. It's our personal will. It's like, I want to go here, I want to do that. When it's blocked or there's a problem, now it's one thing about Trump is we can say his will is not blocked. Where he is blocked energetically and on the tree of life is here, is in his third eye. His shadow is the King of Cups, which is really interesting because whenever readers see the King of Cups, they go, Joe Biden. And I'm like, man, Joe Biden burns his ass, man. All I can say. Everything about Joe Biden pisses him off because Joe Biden is love. Joe Biden is acceptance. Joe Biden is, say what you want about him. He's the middle. He is sort of the middle of things. And we need to, in order for America to come together, we have to have somebody in the middle.
That's right.
Because there are people here, there are people here.
Right.
And right.
Yeah.
And so, well, I could go on and on about that, but
well, I agree. He's the uniter. He's the big, and then, so as far as the Supreme Court goes, is there anything on that chart that would indicate an expansion of the court?
Well, I would say Pluto trining the sun. I would say it could do that. It could change the whole sort of makeup, but it has more to do with in that case of the trine. I think it has more to do with, I think the key here is we are the people we've been waiting for, right? The power of the individual, and then as each individual expresses their true self, they align with other people's, and then that's how we make the change. This is our playpen. we get to make the changes here. We get to manifest here. This is so manifest what you want. Like I know that and I'm guilty, a little guilty of this too. I'll be watching the political stuff. And my husband, who's an Aries and like purely like psychic and just he doesn't give crap about most anything but like what he's doing. And he's a healer, so it's not like he's a jerk, but so so he's like, what are you watching this stuff for? And I say, well, because people want to know about it and I want to be able to explain it to them. But I don't invest in it. I used to. The first 2 years of Trump's presidency, I nearly lost my mind because every morning I would get up and he would do something that would hurt my heart. Every day, every day. And I was in such a state. My husband says, you got to stop paying attention. But I couldn't because I needed to understand it because that's my nature. And the North Node right now is in Aries. And so everybody's being asked to be themselves.
Okay.
Everybody's asked, you're here to be your best self. Fly your freak flag, right?
Nice. So that's interesting. It makes sense to me about the Supreme Court. It all makes sense. It really does. We get an eye full of it. We get to decide what we want differently. We have some trines coming up that's going to help us. We actually have help. We have a sympathetic energy to help us make these decisions. And I think because of the Aries energy and also just because of this energy of humans, what do you want? You have to steer the ship, right? Like you elect these people and then you stay in contact with them and then you become very active. And I think that's a big shift also in our humanity from going in from these sort of unawake, just sleepwalking through our lives to realizing this is really, really, really important. And we really need to research who we're voting for. And we really need to be clear about what we want. And then we need to hold those people accountable to it. And that's a big, long process. I think we're in the middle of it. It's not I don't see it being a snap. I don't see us waking up tomorrow and doing that. But I think that we're beginning the process of waking up. We're beginning the process of going, oh my God, this is terrible, really terrible. And we're beginning the process of realizing, like you said earlier, we're the ones that we've been waiting for. And we really don't have a choice. We have to get involved and we have to make our voice heard. So we can do that. We can do that. We're going to do that this November. We're going to put new people in. They're going to give us an expanded Supreme Court, I hope. Or anyway, hold the Supreme Court accountable to today, 2024, to our social construct and social contract. And what do people want now, not what people wanted in 1780 something, right?
Right.
And that's what they're giving us, right? Because they want to take us back to 1780 something, right? So it's like you said, we're getting an eyeful. And if we get angry enough and upset enough, we're really going to go out and take action. And that's where we are. It's like we're being poked and prodded to wake up and go out and do the work.
Yeah, and we, energetically, the even though the court has this majority of, as far as I could tell, maniacs, it's still more, as far as the male-female balance, it's getting more balanced.
Yeah.
And I personally think that I always thought that Amy Coney Barrett wasn't going to be who they thought she was going to be. I always thought that, and I think I might have even at the time looked at her chart or done a reading on it. I just know that it was in my consciousness somewhere, that they would influence her and she'd finally like wake up and say, what, right? Because when you're a woman, you come from a different place. You just come from a whole different perspective on life. And it's a perspective men don't have. And if we want a court that's balanced, I think it also has to be balanced in that way as well. And I think it's good to have people who disagree, but you have to find the common ground, right, on things. It's not, I don't think you should, I mean, we could see what a all one way court looks like. We're looking at it right now, right? Like that's not fun. for
No.
us.
Right.
And, maybe there was a time when I don't know, because I don't know the history that well. Maybe it was a time when it was considered all, it was all liberal stuff. But I have a feeling I heard a commentator once say that in our lifetimes, we always considered the Supreme Court as being sort of balanced and above reproach, but it hasn't, that was an anomaly. That was an anomaly if you
That
think
was an
about it,
anomaly.
right? So it's not really different, but now that we're more aware and more awake and we're all off our couch and we realize that this, it's like anything. If you don't lose it, you don't, and like when you lose something, that's when you come to appreciate it.
Yeah.
And it's just like when you lose a parent, they might have been a thorn in your side, but when they're not there, you're like, so there's, what I mean? So in a way, I don't think the Dobbs thing was a good idea. I think Alito has a North Node in Aries. He's an Aries, but he he's what do you call that? He's like an activist. And Thomas is just greedy. Thomas just wants his due. And then these women that they marry, these crazy women.
Isn't that interesting, right? Isn't that
I
interesting?
Yeah, I can't find I've been looking for Martha Ann's it was Flag Day the other day. I was wondering what she was waving, but I can't get a birthday on her, so I can do her numbers, but I can't get a birthday, so I don't know what her path is. But we have a a name anyway, so that's one thing we have. But yeah, I don't know. It's yeah, I think when you get to a place of power like that, you get weird. Like even if you try not to be weird, it's so it's so isolating that when you're at the top of something, um, I think it's a detriment to most people when they get that high up.
Well,
So
I think if they have a screw loose, it just falls all the way out. That's what I think happens. And I think that again, to go back to these opposites, because it's interesting to me that the two SCOTUS wives are agitating to change the Supreme Court, but so women everywhere, women on every opposite end are agitating, right? I just think it's interesting. The Marjorie Taylor Greene is agitating just as much as the AOC. They're
right,
all agitators. It's so, and you have people in 45's realm that are going to bring him down that were for him, that were originally women, women of all walks, whether they're for him or against him, are all bringing him down. And women on the Supreme Court, the wives, these wives are bringing these men down. I just think it's interesting. It's not just women, and it's the same thing with 45 having the same numerological energy as Ruth Bader Ginsburg. The opposite ends, but the same thing is this disruption, this change. You know what I mean? So it's fascinating to me that you can't count any woman out, because even if she's on the wrong side of history, so to speak, she's still causing problems, which causes us to react to the problems. So she's doing her job. This is the way 45 is doing his job. He's done a great job of exposing a lot of our problems on the Supreme Court of power run amok, our problems with being able to buy senators, congresspeople, with abusing power, with being a terrible human being. He's really, I love it. And you're right. It's like we got an eyeful. We're getting an eyeful of everything
that's
all
right,
at once, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
right,
And I feel like this year and next year, we're going to be able to kind of rectify that. That's the word they're using, is rectify it. Yes, we all have free choice, but when I go into the humanity, and I think we can talk about that next, the one vibration. When I go into humanity doesn't want war. They
right,
don't want to be abused. They want to live a simple, it's not like they're asking for everything. They're simply asking for basic human rights, peace, autonomy, a simple structure to live, and food to eat, and health care. Okay, now beyond that, you do you, boo. If you want to be a titan of industry, you go. But I feel like what's happening is that there's going to be a new social safety net, or a stronger social safety net, that's going to expand all the way throughout, not just the United States, but all of the democratic countries. And there's going to be parity in that. Like right now, you get this great social safety net, let's say in Europe. Maybe you get a better one in Canada, and you get a pretty broken one in the United States. But I'm seeing more parity in that, because all the humans want the same thing. That's the energy as I tap into it. So what would you say about that, about this one consciousness and some of the energies that are coming in with that?
Well, just in general about like how what people really want, see, democracy, I guess to a certain extent, is the great equalizer, because everybody's voice supposedly is heard, right? And so when you look at a planet like Pluto, which is a planet associated with power, Pluto's been in Capricorn since, or was in Capricorn, now it's in Aquarius, but it's going to go back for the last degree of Capricorn for 3 months. It starts September 1st and ends on Biden's birthday, and moves and goes into Aquarius, where it's going to stay for 20 years, right? But Capricorn is hierarchical power. So it's top down. It's like this. And now that Pluto is in, and remember, the last time Pluto was in Capricorn was in the 1700s. And the United States has Pluto in Capricorn. So 28 degrees Capricorn. It's right at the end. And then during the revolution, Pluto went into Aquarius, right? So what happened? Off with their heads, right? What happened in France? What happened? So the power of the elite was at its peak. And then Pluto moves into Aquarius, and all of a sudden, this is what happens. And so as that happens, all the people who are at the bottom start to raise up, but it's more equal. So we can't look to a single person. Like everybody blames, well, we don't. Everybody says Biden this, Biden didn't do this, Biden didn't do that. Leave Biden alone. First of all, he's holding this country together, and it breaks my heart, because he's going to be someone that when he's gone, we're going to say, oh man, yep, you can feel it, right? I can feel it too. It's like the grandpa that used to tell you to stop picking the roses, stop messing with the garden, because you're upsetting, and you'd get mad because grandpa didn't want you to touch his roses. And then when grandpa's gone, you're like, oh, I understand now. Like, why does it have to be gone before we understand it? So I feel like as far as that's concerned, the power is shifting. And the thing is Aquarius, the symbol for Aquarius is like the wiggly line, right? 2 wiggly lines. That's vibration. And so how you vibrate is what is the group that you're going to coalesce with. And our challenge when Pluto is in Aquarius is to be able to connect between the different groups, right? But it's not going to feel as stable, because we're not going to be able to go to daddy and say, what do we do now? We're going to have to figure it out ourselves to a certain extent. That's why it pays for us to connect with ourselves, to find out who we are and where our light shines brightest. And then as a person, you contribute to the whole. One other thing I want to say about Pluto in Aquarius is that Pluto evolves through its polarity point. Whenever Pluto goes into a sign, the way forward is, because what Pluto does is it disrupts everything that's connected to that sign. Just like when it was in Capricorn, Capricorn rules government. It rules large institutions. It rules banking. It rules power structures. All of that, right, is in the years that. So now when we get into Aquarius, the same thing's going to happen with Aquarius. Aquarius can be elitism. Aquarius could be, oh, you're not cliquey. You're not part of my group, you know. So the evolution, the way that we move through this period and evolve is through its polarity point, which is Leo. And Leo is about self-expression. Leo rules the heart. Leo is love. Leo is ruled by the sun, which holds everything together. And so we have to, the way through this is through love. Love is the answer, right? So do what you love and love what you do. That's what I say. That's what I do. And it works, especially after I've been on Sue Lynn's. It seems to work even better. Thank you, Susan.
This energy with, I love the way you described it because nobody's described it like that. Capricorn is top down. Then we're going to go into more of a kind of a parody. That's what the guides were talking about. But you were saying that this is going to be kind of a little bit discombobulated, a little bit broken apart. I mean, how do you see that? Can you get an idea of how that might look, let's say next year? Because this year we're going back into top down around the fall, which is interesting, around the vote. We're going back into Capricorn, which is like, no, we're going to do it like this. I also feel like that's important because it might be around justice system with Trump, with the judge is going to make the decision top down. But then it moves all the way into Aquarius. And then we start in, basically in 2025 in Aquarius. And so how do you see that manifesting? Have you thought about it, how it might manifest in the United States or in the world, that energy?
As far as Pluto being in Capricorn in those last 3 months, I've been pondering that for a while, especially because it's around the election. And the Sabien symbol for that is, let me read this Sabien symbol for you. You're going to love this.
Explain the Sabien symbol. People don't know what that is.
Okay. So back in the, I think it was the 20s or the teens, I'm not sure, 19 or 20 teens, whatever it was. There was an astrologer who took every sign of every degree of its 360 degrees in the zodiac, right? And he said to this psychic, 3 degrees of Libra. And so she psyched it out and saw an image. And so there are 360 images, and there are different. It's not the only system with symbols to the degrees, but it's one of the most popular and I find most accurate symbols, right?
And it's called Sabien?
Sabien symbols. Yeah, they're called the Sabien symbols. So I'm just going to read the Sabien symbol for that last degree of Capricorn. And then I'll tell you what I think about it beyond that. So let me just, I'm not going to bring it up. I'm just going to look myself. A secret meeting of men responsible for executive decisions in world affairs. And it says, the highest level of social influence. Society is structured hierarchically, and there are a small group of people who secretly direct the course of history. Accepting the need for high-level management of collective affairs. It says, in the kingdom of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. Great power comes when we see what others do not see. We can grasp opportunity and avoid calamity and inconvenience, influence people, and make sound decisions for ourselves. A group of highly awakened individuals together forms the ruling executive power over world affairs, notwithstanding the rise and fall of political fashions, nations, and economic blocs. These can see what the masses do not see. Two sides must exist of this phenomena. The dark aspect is revealed. Satanic elite that selfishly control wealth and the laws of the world. There is also a hierarchy of light beings, equally powerful, yet focused on keeping open the path to freedom and
Wow.
complete realization. We need to choose which group to offer our attention.
Wow. And which Sabien symbol is that?
30 degrees of Capricorn. And the symbol, the first thing I said is from the book from Dane Rudger, but the stuff I said after that comes from a website called James Burgess, BURGESS.com. And it's a Sabien symbol website. It's a really great website.
Nice.
If anybody
Nice.
wants to
So
explore.
that's fascinating. That is pretty much where we are. And that Sabien symbol is for the time, a period of what?
From September 1st to November 20th. And so what that says to me is, what are you going to focus your attention on? The dark or the light? Because whatever you focus your attention on is what you're giving power to.
Yeah.
So even though, don't be afraid, because fear keeps you in your lower chakras. Love raises it up. Love unites, fear separates. And if we want to have a life and a world where we have a chance to bring heaven to earth, we're only going to bring it through love. And this is a time we are at a highly powerful time to shift. If you think about, and let me just say this, the United States is moving into, on our birthday, we're moving into a 1 year. It's a 19-1 year. Okay. Now 19-1 is the sun card in the tarot, the sun. And it's about full illumination. Okay. So we're going to see things very clearly. And in that clarity of seeing, a choice needs to be made. I choose the light. I choose unity. I choose love. I choose that I don't need to have power over somebody else. I just need to have power within myself, to be myself, not to prove myself to anybody, not to be better than anybody else, but just to be. And the North Node in Aries says be, just be. My husband and I have a favorite saying, you be you and I'll be me. And you say, be you, boo.
That's right.
Right.
Exactly. It's exactly right. That is fascinating. And that's what I see. That's exactly what I'm seeing. People are saying, I want peace. I want autonomy. I want autonomy of my body. I want autonomy of my peace. I want to be respected. And all of that falls in love. So I think that's another thing that people don't really understand. What does that mean? What does love mean? You know what I mean? Like love can be present in an argument, right? I mean, it can be present in opposites. It doesn't mean that everybody has to be exactly like you. And I think this is a big theme in this conversation we're having is you be you, I'll be me. As long as you don't repress or suppress me, I'm not going to do it to you. And in that way, we have the one consciousness.
Right. Well, everybody in our life is a reflection of us. So when you see somebody that's pissing you off,
Yeah.
that's a part of you.
Yeah, that's
That's
right.
not them, that
That's true.
they're a mirror. So the
That's
more
true.
we become at peace and in the oneness of who we are and accept ourselves and love ourselves, then we don't care if anybody, honestly, if you love yourself, you don't care if anybody else loves you, because you've access to love. And imagine all these like glowing, loving people just walking around bumping into each other. It sounds like heaven to me. I don't know. I haven't been walking around in love my whole life for sure. I
Right.
mean, who has? We're here to bring heaven to earth. Humanity is the bridge between heaven and earth. Humanity sits in the tree of life, sits in the heart, in Tippereth. And it's humanity that we volunteered to come here and move into the density, to bring light to the density. And we
I
can
love
only do that through bringing light in, through, and out. Chiropractors say up, down, inside, out. That's a philosophy of chiropractic. Everything comes from spirit, and everything starts on the inside and works its way out.
100%. I love that humans are here, and the guides have told me that we're here to be the connection between heaven and earth. But I love that you're bringing the light to the density. I love that, bringing the light to the density. That is beautiful. Is there anything? So you said we have a new start. So our birthday this year, meaning July 4th, this year is when we begin again. We begin anew with the sun card with the number 1.
Yes.
A new rebirth. That, to me, that gives me so much hope. That gives me so much, it's so full of hope and light.
It's the sun.
It's the sun. I
Here
love it.
come the sun.
Yeah, that's right. Do, right. Anything else you want to leave with the viewers before we call it a day?
No, I mean, I think it's all been said. I'm just really grateful to be hanging out with you. So
Oh
you're
my
a real
God,
light.
I'm grateful to be hanging out with you.
You're a
It's
real light.
fascinating.
Yeah.
It's absolutely fascinating. And listen, the more knowledge you have, the better off you are, right? Like the more you understand it, you don't have to be anxious about it because you understand it. We understand that the Supreme Court has this beautiful opportunity to transform. And we understand that our country is at the beginning again. We get another chance at it. We get another chance to bring in the light, and not only bring it in, but to celebrate it, right? Why not take an opportunity to celebrate all the good? Why not change our perspective to what's good instead of what's bad? Because the
Yes.
media is all focused on what is bad. And I think that you can even go online and search for only good videos or good vibration videos where you just see nothing but good things over and over again. Imagine how beautiful your vibration would be if you instead fed it that.
You are what you eat, right?
You are what you eat. And I would just tell you guys, for because I know a lot of my viewers, we're pragmatic people, we're realists, we're cynical. I get it, me too. But I just want to tell you, it's not the same. Let me address this. It's not like arranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. It's not the same. Having a loving vibration means you wouldn't have gotten on the Titanic because you wouldn't have matched a sinking ship. You would have been one of those people that said, "Oh, I don't know why, but I don't feel like I want to go." Or you showed up too late to get on the boat. That's the difference. Now, if you were on the Titanic and you had a loving vibration that we're talking about, you would have been helping people get on the life rafts. You would have made sure there was enough life rafts. I mean, that it doesn't mean checking out. We talked about not being awake. This is not the same thing. Being full of love is not being asleep at all. It's actually helping because you're pumping out love vibration to everybody in the world. It's actually the most actionable thing you can possibly do. So it's
Right.
not about, not being involved in the world. We're not talking about ostriches putting your head in the sand at all. It's
Right.
actually a very action oriented energy.
Yeah, because when you do what you love and love what you do, you're putting the love out, right? You're expressing the love. And some people will go out and uh knock on doors and say, this person is running and this is what's it. And some people won't do that. Whatever little way you can do it. And if the only way you can do it is to light a candle at, like, I have a little altar here. I don't know if you can see it,
Yeah,
but
we can see it. Yeah.
let me see. I have I'll show you who's on my altar. Um, I have Ruth Bader Ginsburg
Oh,
as
nice.
Lady Justice. She's up
Nice.
there. And I have my favorite political action figure, Bernie
Nice.
Sanders.
Bernie.
Yes. See, so he's my hermit. He's like my sage. I love Bernie. So
Oh,
I
I
haven't,
love
so
Bernie.
that's something, and you're just putting focused intention in something. In the case of my little thing over there, wisdom, justice, love, compassion, right? So you just whatever way you can do it, making your garden beautiful that when people pass it, they go, what a beautiful garden. When you see a beautiful place, you bring beauty, you see something beautiful. You could be an artist. You don't have to call people and say, we're running. But if you're doing art and it opens people's hearts, that works too. It works in whatever way, little ways and big ways.
Yeah.
And it all sort of accumulates to a big wave of love. And so this wave that we're talking about, we don't have to make it blue or red or pink or purple. We could just make it a wave of love, a
Oh, that's beautiful.
tsunami of love, so that we can cleanse ourselves and start anew, like a
Nice.
baptism almost, I guess.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And that love vibration, when you send it out, we know that those people that are not of love, and we know who they are, they're not going to receive that extra beautiful love and light. And they're going to be, the more of us that send it out, the more of those people who don't vibrate with love, they're going to be diminished.
That's right. And
You
who
know,
knows? They could wake up to love. Who's to say?
or they could wake up and change their tune. Like you kind of mentioned that maybe Amy Coney Barrett might be having a little bit of a change of her priorities or her set point of her ideas. And, we allow that too, right? We want to allow people to change. I want to grow and change, right? So, absolutely. That's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much, Dr. Vicky. Again, you guys, if you're still watching, thank you for watching to the end of this video. Check out her channel. She has a YouTube channel, and she also has her website, Seeds of Transformation, and you can book readings with her, but you can learn all about it in the description of this video. Please do check her out. She's wonderful. And look, if you have all these tools available to help you during this time, I would suggest that you use them, whatever tool it is, whether it's walking outside or taking a nap or taking a long bath or ringing up a supportive and happy and encouraging friend or getting readings. I encourage you to do it. You don't have to tough this out. There's lots of ways that cost money and don't cost money to enrich yourself, to raise your vibration. Please take advantage of them. And her videos are really cool. So check out her videos because they're free, right? So
They are,
thanks,
yes.
everybody. You guys take really good care. We'll see you again.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
For entertainment purposes only.